Hello friends and potential friends. Well, this is my parking spot for the night. Parawan Gap. The gap is over there. We'll look at that a little bit more shortly. But just looking around, this is what we have to see. Beautiful place. Has a few picnic tables and even has a vault toilet. So nice and peaceful here last night. About 9 o'clock it seems like everybody goes to bed here. Didn't have any traffic at all after that. Let's take a walk around and see what we can see. Now, Parawan Gap is a natural formation that makes a easily passable gap through the mountains here and into some pretty flat grasslands beyond. The Native Americans found it thousands of years ago, and they decided that it was some kind of a sacred site. So we'll be taking a look at some of their work in a moment. But for now, let's just go around and look at the different signs and see if you want to take a look at them. And you can pause the videos anytime you want and read the signs. And I'll just take you along for the ride. What draws so many people to this site is the Native American petroglyphs that have been made here over the last few thousands of years. These sites were found by a couple of Native American tribes who decided that they made this a special place, and people have been coming back here to see these petroglyphs ever since. Apparently at one time there was an ancient river that flowed through here, and that's what actually created the gap. Over time the winds shaped it a bit. As you can see from that picture, there's a lot of open lands back behind the gap. Walking along the sign, we'll see a number of, or along the walkway, we'll see a number of signs explaining the different things that are going on here. Here we are with the Paiute perspective. The Paiute people live around this area to this day, and they still consider this place to be kind of sacred. Mainly because their ancestors, the people that came before them, found this place to be so special. But what you really want to see is the petroglyphs themselves. And there's a bit of a sample of them. You can see on the edge of that rock where symbols have been etched into the stone. As we move along, on the other side of the rock, you can see quite a few symbols put in there. I hope those show up on the camera. Right now the lighting is not the best for this side of the rock, but we'll do the best we can. And this sign tells the story of the Great Migration by the Southern Paiutes. That's what's depicted in those petroglyphs up there. And here we see a few more of the petroglyphs, along with the initials HB that some idiot decided to carve into the rock to leave his mark. Now we have the Hopi perspective on the petroglyphs. I hope these show up because these are some of my favorites. Let's see if I can get you positioned just right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that look like some kind of alien carved into these rocks many thousand years ago? Real interesting. Very, very interesting. And just for perspective, that is the gap. And you can see some of the grasslands off beyond. On either side, big rocks. Oh look, there's the moon sticking its nose up in the air. And an interesting hole in the wall. We may take a closer look at that in a few minutes. For now, I'm just fascinated with the rocks and the birds. And here we have the other side. More big rocks. And more of the petroglyphs over there. Let's see what else we can find. More of the petroglyphs. Someone climbed up there and painstakingly carved those things. And it looks like they climbed up pretty high too. And then of course there's the usual graffiti. Incidentally, it is highly illegal to deface this site. Look but don't touch. Let's leave it for future generations to see. Beautiful. Then we have to ask, is it art or is it language? Off to the right you can see how they formed these things. Over to the left you can see some of the suspected interpretations, shall we say. Up on the rock you can see those actual symbols. And a few more of the symbols hiding up there behind the sagebrush. Like I said, they are all over this place. And as we will pass through the gap, you can see petroglyphs all over the place. Someone sure did some climbing to put those ones up there. And as you look around, you see wildlife. Here's some of the wildlife at the gap. And some of the wildlife you'll see depicted in the petroglyphs. This morning I've seen quite a few birds. In fact, there's a big meadow one passing over right now. Up on the wall, there's some of the petroglyphs that are depicting some of the animals. And on the other side of the gap, you see why this gap is so important. Miles and miles of wide open spaces. And there's the gap from this side. And for any van lifers that may be watching, I followed this particular trail, about half-mile or so. It seems to keep going forever. There may be a few camping spots out in there. I'm not certain if this is BLM land back here or not, so you might want to verify that before you stay overnight. But in any case, it's a beautiful place. And here's the short story of some of the settlement of this valley. And of course, some of those early settlers had to leave their own marks. I guess since it happened almost 100 years ago, that makes this historic. If you get caught defacing these rocks these days, you're liable to end up in a pokey, because it is definitely against the law. Look, but don't touch. Leave it for the people to come in the future. And just to see if I can create a little bit of vertigo. This is within the gap. No, there's some high hills up there. I'm keeping my feet firmly on the ground. And even more of the petroglyphs. Through the sagebrush. Hope I'm getting that right. Sun's up here behind me. And it's kind of hard to see what I'm looking at. A lot of history in these hills. And of course, we can't leave without taking a look at the infamous hole in the wall. I'm not going to try to tell you what's inside there, because I'm not climbing up there, and it's obvious they don't want people going in there. And I can sure see why. But there it is. That ends our little look around Parawan Gap and the petroglyphs. I hope you enjoyed it. And for anybody that made it this far, I'll confess, I recorded this video yesterday afternoon, and last night when I was editing, I found that the winds were so strong the video was unusable. So I decided to get up early and try to do it again. And I hope it worked out this time. I can feel the winds picking up. And another name for this place, incidentally, is Windy Gap, for obvious reasons. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.